Every day, it feels like we get somebody new coming out and giving us a price prediction for XRP into the 4 digits. These people are not just the run of the mill. They've been building in the space for over a decade. And you start to wonder, do these people know something we don't? Is there information and data that we could look at today, right now in this video, that can set up our understanding of this higher value for XRP? I'm going to throw all of the information at you, all of the data in this video. And by the time you're done watching this complete video, you're going to know exactly where we're going to be over the next few years. So Bloomberg is predicting that a 95% approval rating is coming for an XRP spot ETF in the United States. So let's listen to this clip, and then I'm going to give you some facts and information.
In the US, 11 XRP ETF filings are pending with the SEC. And Bloomberg and analysts are now assigning a 95% probability that at least one will be approved. Well, during the night, I've been on the phone, Bank of America contacts again, and I'm saying 100% that these ETFs will be approved. 100%.
All right, so this guy has contacts, and they said that they believe it's going to 100% be approved this year. So here is the significant updates that we've seen as far as the ETF's approval. SEC deadline timeline, multiple XRP spot ETF applications, including the Rex, Osprey, Grayscale, 21 Shares, and Bitwise are under SEC review. The SEC's decision deadlines for these major filings is October 2025. Some expected the SEC to make a landmark ruling in July 2025, but recent updates indicates that the agency delayed its decision, suggesting a final ruling is now likely by October 2025. Odds and market sentiment analysts and prediction markets now estimate a 95% to 98% chance of a spot XRP approval by the end of 2025. All right, so now let's go ahead, and here is a clip that I played in a video that came out yesterday on my channel, but it speaks to a larger moment of where we are right now and what people are seeing, what investors are seeing on CNBC right now, the good things that are said about XRP, and then I'm going to get into all of these data points to show you where this is actually going to take us.
That Dom Chu has today's ETF Edge as advertised. Hey, Dom.
All right, so Scott, from adoption driven by Washington to a 10-year birthday coming later on this week, there's a lot going on in cryptocurrencies. Joining me now is Sal Gilberti, the president and CEO of Teucrium Trading. This is an interesting development. You're one of the firms out there that runs a slate of ETFs, but one of them is a levered fund tied to the value of a big cryptocurrency, and that's XRP. Just what can you tell us about how much investor interest there is in XRP and, of course, a levered instrument to it?
Well, thank you, Dom. There's enormous interest in XRP. They call it the XRP Army, and I realize they call it that for a reason. We launched this fund. It'll be 16 weeks tomorrow, and the money that's come in is quite extraordinary. Hundreds of millions of dollars have come in. It is our most successful fund. We're 16 years old today when I incorporated the company, coincidentally, and we've never seen a response like that.
How did you make the turn? Because the slate of products you have are mainly agricultural based, and then you decide to venture out into cryptocurrency, specifically XRP. What was the thinking there?
Well, we had filed for Bitcoin before, and we do have crypto interests, and I'm an XRP enthusiast. And when I saw the opportunity to file and get it approved, and really not holding XRP itself, but holding the derivatives so that we could leverage it and give investors what they want. They clearly want some leverage. We got a great ticker, double XRP, XXRP, and it took off. It was a big hit immediately, right out the door.
And if you could put on a forecasting hat, as somebody who looks at the fund flows, looks at the industry, where do you think else in the crypto sphere is ripe for even more activity?
All right, we don't need to get into wherever else. So obviously there's a huge demand right now for people that are trading kind of stocks and these types of things and derivatives for these products. And so we know XRP is the #1 pick for institutions right now, right? Solana is like at 5 ETF applications. XRP spot is in other XRP products is well over 10. I think it's like 10 to 15 at this point. So there's a lot of interest right now circling. And so we actually have some data that we can look at as far as the Canadian spot ETF. So let's take a look at what the data on those ETFs have been over the last few weeks. So 3IQ spot XRP ETF grew from 23 million in assets under management in only 3 days to surpassing 50 million assets under management by mid-July. This makes the largest XRP ETF in North America. The Canadian spot XRP ETF market as a whole is relatively modest but growing, with the totals suggesting an accounts under management or assets under management across all three products collectively approaching $100 million within the first month. So obviously the Canadian markets are much different from the American markets. There's a lot more money down here in New York and these types of places in the United States than there is in Canada, but there is overwhelming demand for this. So other institutions, right, maybe even your BlackRocks and some of these bigger people are looking at the demand in Canada, and they can already probably, you know, they have some really smart people that get paid a ton of money to tell them what they should or should not be doing. And I have to imagine there's had to have been some meetings recently saying, hey, there's a lot of demand for XRP products. We should probably line this up. Remember, BlackRock is the largest assets under management on the planet. If they want to get something done, all they need to do is apply for it, put a little bit of pressure, a phone call to a friend, and that thing will get approved in an instant. Current US status as of July 25, the SEC has not yet approved a spot XRP ETF. We already talked about the chances of this. And so early inflows estimated the United States could see about 1 to 2.2 billion soon after launch, even with conservative estimates for the XRP demand. Other analysts suggest about 3 to 8.4 billion in the first 12 months. Now, the 8.4 billion here, this was by JP Morgan analysts. I do think I remember that. And so I don't need to pull it up. So interesting, right? If we got 8.5 billion in the first year, that's very close to 10 billion. If we start to look at market cap multipliers, 100 to, you know, let's say 500x, we are talking about a multi-trillion-dollar market cap for XRP. Let me show you what this is going to be looking like. So we scroll down here. We don't need to get any more updates. Let's go ahead and take a look at the actual hard data and the numbers. So on the left here, in the past, I've shown you multiple videos on market cap multipliers. This is inflows into XRP to change the market cap. So every $1 in inflows in the past has changed the market cap either 100x to 600x. That has been the norm. Okay, so let's look at that information. As of June 2025, XRP saw inflow to market cap multipliers around 538x to 647x. Those are the numbers right now. Now, as more value comes on chain, this number will be dramatically reduced. Right now, with Bitcoin at about $2.5 trillion market cap, they are still seeing a 70x multiplier. So into the first few trillions, at least for XRP, we are going to see some type of, you know, very high and rare market cap multiplier. Now, if we look down here at the information, so 10 billion, JP Morgan, I believe, said it could be up to 8.3 billion in the first 12 months. So let's just look at 10 billion, because 8.3 is just a random, you know, it's a harder number to figure out here. With a 100x multiplier, you would be at a $1 trillion market cap. At a 200x multiplier, you would be at 2 trillion. At a 500x multiplier, at $10 billion, you would be at a $5 trillion market cap for XRP. So all of these people saying, hey, you're never going to get into the trillions of market cap, no money can go into it to do this. Those people clearly don't understand most of these crypto assets are illiquid. They don't have a lot of money flowing through them. And so giant inflows in or outflows can change the market cap dramatically. And if we start to scale this out, right, because we know Bitcoin's adoption in the spot ETF world, $150 billion over the last few years, 150 billion. So you start to look at this over the next few years, right? Can XRP get to 100 billion, 200 billion? Because Bitcoin is going to be 500 billion. It's going to be $1 trillion in ETF demand before you know it, because now you're starting to get like 401ks and IRAs and these types of things put into it. So at 25 billion, using these same numbers, you're at a 2.5 trillion, 5 trillion, and $12.5 trillion market cap. At $100 billion, looking at these same type of market caps, remember that we don't know what the, you know, when the point of these market cap multipliers won't be so high. So bear with me on that information. It's impossible to know at this point, but you'd be at a 10 trillion, 20 trillion, or a $50 trillion market cap for XRP. And this would be the prices. This would be the prices. So you're using a 59 billion circulating supply. Remember, I believe over the next few years, there's going to be a lot of DeFi applications and things like that that are going to require you locking up or staking XRP. That's going to remove XRP out of the circulating supply. There's also, banks, institutions, or treasury companies, or these ETF companies, they're going to be locking up that XRP as well. Most of it, I would imagine, for a time being. And if that can reduce the circulating supply, all of these numbers would get a little easier, right? If you can take, 10 billion or 20 billion out of circulation over the next few years, this could make all of this way easier. So here is $1 trillion market cap all the way to 50 trillion and what the prices for XRP would be. So at a $1 trillion market cap, we're talking about $16. 5 trillion, talking about almost $100 XRP. And of course, 50 trillion is that, close to $850 to $1,000 market cap for XRP. And, there's a lot of information here. If you want to pause and read through it, I'm not going to keep going on this market cap multipliers because I think we've all seen the data here. But, this person, I played this in a video that's already out today on Friday. This will come out on a Saturday, probably. Joe Kwok and Phil Kwok were being interviewed on this, kind of like stock kind of crypto program. And he gave a prediction for XRP of $1,000. Let me play it.
I know a lot of people have been asking for my price targets on XRP. And I think this is the first time I'll say it, but I think XRP is heading to $1,000 by 2030. So for me, it's, a super important project, and actually probably one of the most important projects out there at the moment.
Now, he could be saying this to get eyes on Easy A and his business. Absolutely. But this guy is incredibly smart. I showed you kind of where this guy's background and kind of what schools he went to in business schools. This is a very, very intelligent person. I don't think he just says things to say things, right? He's not some type of influencer. He's a businessman in the crypto space, building, with XRP technology in the ecosystem and onboarding companies. They have over 1 million, I think, people in his products right now as far as their learning application. And you also have digital asset investor. He's posting a lot of stuff about $1,000 XRP. And so by 2030, he's predicting this. And so I threw this into Perplexity here just to kind of look at some additional information. And so here's what he's saying. By 2025, you're talking about a 1.18 trillion, $20 price tag for XRP. I mean, there are people in the XRP space like Jake Claver, who has placed bets against people in his own community saying that he thinks XRP could reach $750 in 2025. Now, I don't share Jake's optimism as far as a price target like that in such a short time span, but maybe Jake's seeing things that I don't know, or maybe Jake's doing it for views. I really can't tell you, but he has said time and time again, he sees a very high price for XRP. I'd imagine if you wanted to go watch his content and to better understand his thought process, that's probably something that you should do. And so here's 2026, 2027, 28, 29, and 30. And here would be all the market caps and the price targets for XRP. Now, I can tell you a $500 XRP to $1,000 XRP, I could retire for the rest of my life. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who watch my content that would feel the same way. There's probably people that watch my content that could retire off a whole lot less. But, it depends on when you got in, how much you have, and all of these different details. Now, this is just talking about ETF demand. This is not really talking about XRP's real use case of being used for cross-border payments or a bridge asset or, to launch stable coins on or any of these types of things. And so you start to look at, other partnerships and other things that Ripple's doing. Smoke Dog does a great job about posting a lot of this information. Some of the information is clickbaity, but some of the information is very well and accurate. And so he posted this: Ripple, a new technological approach to integrate cross-border transfers, created in 2005, headquartered in the United States, works in test mode with more than 100 banks: Santander, Bank of America, Access Bank, Standard Chartered, and then, of course, unlimited scalability. It is designed to improve existing payment technologies by accelerating exchange operations and facilitating the trade of flow of illiquid assets. And, what Ripple's been working on the last few years is just basically showing these institutions that, hey, we have products that far exceed the technology that you've been using for the last 50 years. And at what point, are your customers going to start knocking down your door demanding these types of products? I mean, think if you're a business or if you are somebody that moves a lot of money around the planet, you want to be able to get that money wherever it needs to go as quickly, efficiently, and as cheaply as possible. And if you can't do that with the SWIFT system anymore, then you need to start using these blockchain rails. Now, I do think a lot of these payments will be used with stablecoins and not XRP, but XRP still has a great use case. And if you're using RLUSD on the XRP ledger, that is going to require XRP as the gas token. And it says Ripple XRP is actively used or in advanced testing phases among major global banks. As 2025 RippleNet, the network underpinned Ripple's technology, serves over 300 financial institutions across 45 countries, with more than 40% of these using XRP for on-demand liquidity. So you have 300 financial institutions across 45 countries, and 40% of those institutions are using XRP. Now, the demand might not be there to use this for tens of billions or hundreds of billions or trillions of dollars per year yet, but we are surely getting to a point where we're going to have maybe a flip of the switch moment or a crack off moment where, this starts to get used on a much larger scale, much more quickly. And we're really waiting to see what that adoption could look like as far as the price. Now, Santander launched OnePix, I believe, back in 2018. I don't really need to get into that. Of course, we know all the information about Bank of America. I don't need to bore you with that. Standard Chartered, the bank, is documented, partnered with Ripple, and has conducted several pilot programs leveraging Ripple and XRP to trade finance, real-time cross-border payments. Standard Chartered's leadership has publicly discussed shifting away from legacy SWIFT systems like SWIFT. So, when these SWIFT system is, I don't know, man. Are they shaking their boots? Now, I do need to tell you that Swift GPI has been able to speed up a lot of these payments. 90% of these payments settle within an hour or the same day, but you still have the gigantic cost that comes along with using the Swift system. Now, if you are looking at two different systems and both can get your payment there in the same hour or within 5 minutes, but one is, maybe thousands of dollars and one is a penny, what makes sense there, right? Can you stay in business if other banks shift to using blockchain and you're still using the old system? Are you going to lose customers? Are you going to lose a whole lot more than that? You start to really wonder about this stuff. And as crypto gets regulated, especially here in the United States and other places around the world, banks really don't have an excuse not to give these products to their customers anymore. All right, I'll leave that with you guys. Let me know what you think about a $1,000 XRP by 2030. A lot of stuff being said right now. I'll bring you all the updates, all the information. I hope you're doing well. Nothing in this video should be taken as financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. I am not a financial advisor. Please seek financial advice if you need it. Let's get back to the video.